Welcome to my channel, Life by Shauna. If you haven't subscribed yet, push the button. We could call it Life by Shauna, or we could call it Shauna's online video diary, because I feel like that's what I do a lot of times. I get on here, I'm sharing the journey, and that is exactly what the Lord told me to do when I started this channel, is share the journey. I'm going to share, I've recently gone through what I would say is probably the hardest 2 months, like month and a half, 2 months that I've had since I was single. And if you guys have followed my story, I went through some really hard stuff. So to say that, I feel like is saying a lot. And in that, I'm going to share some of that stuff because I think it's helpful for all of us to know that we're all going through stuff. But in that, what the Lord has shared with me, the growth I've had through it, even in a short couple months time. So, I feel like sometimes some of the people who watch it are like the type of people who would read someone's diary, like if it was left open, because like I'm pretty real about stuff. So, anyways, I actually made some notes today because I'm going to list some stuff and you will understand once I get into it. So a few months ago, it was like mid-July, TJ and I had gotten back from a really great time together. The Lord worked it out. All the kids were gone at the same time. So we got like some great time on our own. Anyways, we got back. We were already pretty tired when we got back. There was a issue that popped up between, me and my dad, actually. Really it turned out to be something as a matter of perspective, because it was kind of issue he had with me, but it's matter of perspective type thing. But I don't know about you guys, but relationship stuff, if there's issues in my relationships that are close to me, oh my gosh, it's the worst, isn't it? It is the worst. And like, it kept me up a couple nights, like, while we were like talking things out, kept me up a couple nights. I ended up getting sick. For the first time in my massage career, I had to cancel work. In hindsight, I think I got COVID, but I didn't know it until I realized like other people were getting COVID and then what the symptoms were. And I'm like, oh, that probably was it, because I never get sick except with COVID. But anyways, I ended up having to cancel work, which, when you have a business like mine, massage therapist, if I don't work, I don't get paid. So, that's got its own little stresses that we weren't planning on. So I'm trying to get better. My daughter is due any day, with having her first baby, and she was going to have a home birth and wanted me there. So I am like doing all the stuff to get better. A couple weeks later, she goes in to labor, after 14 and a half hours of pushing. And right at the point where we're like, okay, girl, you've got like 4 more pushes and all of this is over, the midwife's like, curveball, I think we need to transfer her to the hospital. And, I have a lot of experience with births. Like, I've been at a lot of people's births, of course I've had my own. And I just know, like, when you're at a birth, you have to be very supportive. You are very calm. Like, you don't go to births if you have a lot of fear about stuff. So I'm pretty great at births, like, honestly, because I know what a woman wants, like in labor, like I've experienced it a lot, and I'm a great second pair of hands. Like, I don't want to be in charge, but so, so she's like, whoop, and we're like, what? So we had to just pack up everything when the baby's so close and drive 100 miles an hour down the interstate to the closest hospital. talk about intense. Okay, it was intense. Um, and with it happening to your own daughter, you know, it was an intense day. And you know, the whole time you just got to be so calm. And so, anyway, so that happened on a Thursday. Friday, if you guys heard my last video, we thought our house had sold. So we put a lot more stuff in storage. We had a lot of stuff in storage before. In fact, the kids, it's like a big joke at the house, like, oh, Mom, where's that? It's in storage because we thought we were moving before this. But, you know, once our house got under contract, we just put way more in storage. And like, for instance, TJ's tools, all sorts of stuff. And so, so that house that we thought was closing any day fell through at the last minute. So Lauren has her baby, house falls through. My old family home that I raised my kids in, that I loved, came up on the market. So, you know, it had come up on the market a couple years ago, and we had talked about it because it's like right on the river. And oh my gosh, I loved the place. And we had talked about it, and we had decided, like, TJ was just like, you know, I just want this to be a fresh start wherever we go, to be a fresh start for our family. And it took me a hot minute to get it because I'm like, you know, I'm like, well, I'm in your house. But anyways, there was a lot more to it than that. You know, he's one of those people that has that gift of like picking up on stuff, discernment, and we had actually gone to look at the house, and he's just like, that house don't feel good. You know what I'm saying? And so if you have someone like that in your life, you need to listen to that stuff. And I do understand his thoughts on having a fresh start. And so still though, the house came up on the market again, and I'm like, oh, you know, because he might not have liked it a couple years ago, but if we were in a place where we had to be out in 30 days, he might like it a little better then, you know? But our house fell through. So we didn't have to rush to find a place. And so then my old family home came up for sale. That same weekend, our air conditioning goes out. $1,000 to fix. That same time, we got a bill in the mail. There's like all this medical stuff from like some past stuff with Claire, and then like some random other little stuff like I don't know, my kids had a wart I had to get froze off, and then my son had a foot issue. So another almost $1,000 there. You know, at the same time, like right around the same time, like right after that, TJ gets sick. We're trying to actively get answers for some health issues with one of the kids. And then yeah, and then Bella decides to go to public school. And so if you guys know, like, I've homeschooled my kids, all the kids, and there's a lot of reasons why you homeschool. And anyways, you know, my youngest son, William, went to Dayspring. It's like a small Christian school last year, but it just didn't feel the same because like the classrooms are small. I know they're teaching like a Christian worldview, you know, but here Bella's like going into a huge public school, and you just have concerns. You know, you have concerns. She's a girl. Like, is she going to be, I don't know, too naive about stuff? Are people going to be nice? You know, from a mom's perspective who has taught her, like, is she going to do good in school? You know, like, how's she going to do in school? Thankfully, straight A's so far. So, phew on that. But, you know, there's just a lot of concerns. Like, what's she going to be learning? Like, all sorts of things. The people she's going to meet, all sorts of things. So it's like there was that. And just through it all, I just felt kind of by myself in it all. Not that TJ wasn't super supportive. He's always like, He's always so good and so supportive. But like, if you think about all these things that I mentioned, a lot of them are just hit super close to home. Like all the things that matter to me, relationships, the home, our health, like all these different things. I felt like I was getting beat up all day long, like not all day long, but all month and a half long, in all the areas that I could. And so a lot of those areas were just things that were, maybe I had a lot more of an emotional attachment myself than TJ, and he was great. He'd listen and stuff, but I had a lot. I'm not a crier. I do cry at every movie for some reason, and I cry when I'm super happy, but like I don't know, like when I went through all that hard stuff when I was single and divorce, and you guys know, like all the moves and all the crazy, I think I cried like twice, so I'm not a big crier, but I cried more over the last, those month and a half than I did when I was single. Is that not crazy? So it was rough. So, I just kind of felt like I was like, all this was hitting so close to home, hitting me. I felt a little lonely through it all, which is really weird because like I'm not a high maintenance friend, like at all, but thankfully we all have some of those Enneagram 2 friends in our lives, right? So praise the Lord for them. But through this, so all this is happening, and then even my Bible reading, you guys have heard me talk about, I'm going through that Bible through in a year. I'm doing it with like a group of like women that I would get together and pray with. And so they're like, oh, we're going to do this together. And so I'm like, okay, I'm part of the team. I am a great team player. So I'm like, I'm going to do this. And this literally the whole time that I'm going through all this, it's like through all the prophets, like Jeremiah. It's like going through all the hard stuff about, oh, the children of Israel, like, you've been so bad. I'm going to take you out of your promised land and you're going to be in exile for 70 years. And I get it. Like, if I had kids who were sacrificing their kids, like, I'd be pretty mad too. But it's just like everything I was reading, like my Bible time, death and destruction. Like, oh my gosh. I didn't even want to read the Bible, but I'm like, I am, because I am part of the team. And so it was just a hard time. And so through this, my response to the Lord is like, because he can handle our emotions. And but I'm like, God, I love you. I am, I trust you. I am committed to you, but I am also mad, like just about life right now. Like, I'm upset, I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm irritated, like all the things. And not that I could put any of those things on God, but at the same time, I'm like, God, where are you in this? Like, I'm getting beat up. And through reading the word this past year, is it's all been Old Testament until like I'm making this video right now. It's like beginning of October. It's just now getting to the New Testament. It's like a chronological thing. So lots of Old Testament. You see God working in really cool ways with like nations, with kings, big picture stuff. And of course, you see the stories where he's working in the small picture stuff, the myopic view. And he's always got his thread running through all the stories. But you get this big picture, God, the big picture God. But like, how do we know that God is interested in the very small details of our life? Okay, it's great to serve this God. Like, you think of like the big God in the sky or something that takes care of like the big stuff. But does he care about me? like about the little stuff. And yes, like we read in his word that he talks about the sparrow and how he knows where it's going and what it's going to eat and where it's going to sleep. And he's like, if I care so much about even the sparrow, how much more do I care about you? He knows the number of hairs on our head. I mean, I love my kids, but I will never, ever count the hairs on their head. He is intimately involved. And so I'm just talking to God about these things. And you know, one of the things that in his word, the psalm that we all know, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, you are there with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You know, in the presence of all the hard stuff, you are still making a table for me. In going through all the hard stuff in life, he is still right there walking through all the hard stuff with us. He's there. He's intimately involved. He cares. But there's an aspect that we will go through stuff and things look hazy. We will go through things that we can't see the path ahead of us. We see the next step, but we don't see the path. And I don't know about you, but I like to see the path. I have lived a life, seems like, where I only saw the first couple steps a lot of my life. But we have to be okay with living that type of life. Like, okay, I like the path. I have a checklist. I have a to-do list. Like, I like making plans. But when we serve God, he doesn't always make sense. His plans, his ways are above our ways. His thoughts are above our thoughts. And so coming out of this whole time, I was like, just seeking God, and in my prayer time, seeking him, having these dialogues with him. And I had a friend who gave me a book right here on beauty and faith. My friend Trisha bought it for me for my birthday. I celebrated my birthday with some of my friends super late. And so, so I didn't get this till September. But I wanted to read, oh goodness, why didn't I put a bookmark in here? Okay, I found it, I think. I wanted to read, though, a couple things that I had underlined out of this book. Because this book hit me right at the right time. It talks about like the different attributes of God and just our walk with God and what that looks like and what it means sometimes. And so this isn't written all in like one paragraph. I'm just going to read to you some of the highlights. It really helped me, and so I'm hoping it will help you too. Mystery. Mystery calls us to trust in God even when we cannot comprehend what he is doing. Mystery is never a popular road. You must accept your inability to comprehend, articulate, and embody the mystery of God. The invitation remains: enter into the mystery. We clinically categorize reality, ingesting life as a series of problems and questions to which we have or will have all the answers. This perhaps is why our primary response to mystery evokes the foggy feeling of confusion. We have all but lost our ability to be awed in wonder. If God is anything, he is mysterious. The things of God are mysterious. We've got to be okay with living a life with God that involves the mystery. And then I'm going to read one more thing. If it is anything, God's work of incarnation, resurrection, and redemption is teeming with mystery. God's narrative will inevitably involve it, mystery, as it always has. if we, and this is the sentence that really got me, if we desire to participate in the creative work of God, we have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable prospect of mystery. We don't have all the answers. We are never going to understand things. And I know you've all done, this has happened to all of you. But you know, you walk through something and you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't this happen? Like it fell through. Like, oh, why did this work out this way? And then life, the path unfolds a little bit, right? And you're like, oh gosh, I'm so glad it worked out that way. I'm so glad that fell through. I'm so glad that happened. We can't see the whole picture. And if we are giving our lives to God, saying, God, use me, God, work in me, God, make a God story of my life, then we've got to be okay with knowing that our ways are not his ways, that his ways are above our ways, that his thoughts are greater than our thoughts, and to be okay and even embrace, like the book said, embrace the awe of being in wonder, embrace the mystery, because we know he's there with us. We know he loves us. We know he's a good father. We've just got to embrace not always knowing, but knowing that he is there with us the whole time. One last thing I was going to leave with you is, you go through hard things, but the thing is, we don't know. We would never know what a good day is unless we had had a hard day. Like me in my situation, TJ and I have talked about this before. We would never know how amazing what this marriage that God has blessed us with, we would never know how amazing it was if we hadn't both had to walk through some really hard stuff in our previous marriages. We would not know how amazing the gift of God and Jesus's blood, his redemption, his salvation for us is if we didn't see the law and how we could not fulfill it. So when we go through the hard things, it's just for a season. God is with us. Embrace the mystery and trust him and continue seeking him, and it will all be okay. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. I hope what I shared helped some of you guys. Leave me a comment and tell me what you think. And hopefully I will be seeing you a little quicker than I did last time I made one of these.